Heroes celebrate. They have done it.
Hi everyone, back to Evermore YouTube channel. It's Chris back with my rant stroke thought of the day. And it's a bit of a sad one, this, to be honest with you. I mean, firstly, getting the good bit out of the way. Our goodwill as Newcastle United and our players continues. Is Dan Burn, big Dan Burn, the man from Blythe himself, made his England debut at the tender age of 32 after a phenomenal career that basically had setback after setback. He pulled himself up from the bottom right up to the top of his game, his profession. He seems like a lovely lad. He deserves every single ounce of success that he's getting, but you wouldn't think it with some of the crap that I'm seeing and reading in the media, which is what's prompting me to do this video. So if you haven't seen it already, this is another entry into our Media Muppets segment. There was an absolutely rancid and disproportionately incorrectly written, well, puked upon piece in the Daily Mail by Ian Ladyman about Dan Burn. And then the headline was, Newcastle's Wembley hero comes back down to earth with a thump after his limits are exposed for England in his debut. I mean, if that doesn't tell you there's a media agenda, not just against Newcastle United, but against some of our players as well, a lot of our players as well, then I don't know what does, because that is absolute fucking tripe. It really is. I'll get into the reasons why that's tripe in a minute, but to write that in your newspaper, it's pure clickbait, rage bait stuff. It's absolute fucking nonsense. And even non-Newcastle fans who watched Dan Burn play for England the other night won't agree with this piece in the way it's written. It's absolutely fucking bollocks. He writes one sentence in this entire shit fest of a piece of journalism, if you can call it that, where he says, you know, oh, hey, you know, his kind of rise to success or his career is a very nice story. Then he goes on and he says the same rhetoric that the absolute twat bag of a man, Oliver Holt, who decided to go and make a geopolitical statement after Newcastle ended the 70-year trophy drought on X, turned around and said, well, Dan Burn's a nice guy, but is he England class? And when you're reading the piece, the shit he's talking about, listen, did Dan Burn get caught for pace a couple of times? Of course he did, right? Dan Burn's not quick. We know he's not quick, right? But then they start to talk about Mark Guehi, who is a good player. He's not been great this season, let's be brutally honest with you. Ever since that move to Newcastle fell through, he's not particularly reached the same heights that he was previously. And then, believe it or not, they write about Harry fucking Maguire. When was the last time Harry Maguire had a good game for a club, let alone his fucking country? The man is shit, old slabhead himself. But these fuckers seem to think he's Bobby Moore reincarnated. He's fucking toilet. Over the last couple of years, Dan Burn has come to Newcastle United. He's played left back, he's played centre half. He scored against Paris Saint-Germain in the Champions League. He's scored the winning goal in a Carabao Cup victory to end Newcastle United's 70-year trophy drought. He's thrown himself in front of shot after shot after shot. He's played with numerous centre-half partners, and he's done a brilliant job for Newcastle United. Is he the most glamorous, sexy player around? No, he's not at all. He's big, he's gangly, but he's a brilliant defender, and he does what defenders are supposed to do. He stops the ball going into the back of the net. That's what his job is as a defender. But these horrible hacks already getting the knives out for Thomas Tuchel. I'm wearing this cap, actually. I look like Thomas Tuchel a little bit there as well. My hair's probably just as bad underneath. Maybe I'm slightly more hair than old Tommy Boy, but I'm getting there. So hence the cap. But they're just attacking the England manager already before he's even out of the blocks. We saw it when he got appointed. We saw the underlying belly, xenophobia of the media, the Mail being the worst fucking culprits, shocked and pissed off that there's another foreigner in the job because Southgate was brilliant for so long. Southgate was all right. He came in at a bad time when England were in a really low place, and he did well, and he got them far in tournaments, and you can't take that away from him, right? But he wasn't Sir Alf Ramsey, he wasn't even Sir Bobby Robson, Gareth Southgate. He was just an all right, steady manager. England had the chance, in my opinion, in the summer to go for Eddie Howe. Thank God they didn't, by the way. We might not be sitting here talking about Newcastle winning the trophy, but they didn't go for Eddie Howe. And there wasn't rest at Newcastle in the summer. There definitely was. I think if England had approached Eddie Howe properly, he might have took the job. And then the press would have been lauding him all over the place. This is the same guy they say isn't good for us when he goes for a run of 4 or 5 games. would be the number 1 choice for the England job. But this piece was absolutely grotesque. There was no need for it whatsoever at all. This was a brilliant story for Dan Burn, you know, from getting released in Newcastle, 11 years old, going right through the leagues. I think I saw a lovely image where I think it was the first professional game that Dan Burn and John Pickford both played in was for Darlington. You know, obviously Pickford in goal and Burn in centre half, and now they were starting for England. And then that's a lovely story. Write a story about that. Don't just go and attack a player because you don't like him or his club. And that's what it is. It's this rancid top 6, greedy 6, red cartel, elite bias that you see in the mainstream media. You know, all the headlines were about, you know, Miles Lewis-Skelly, who scored a great goal and played really well as well, to be fair. You know, but, you know, did he play as good as Dan Burn? Well, he was probably... Both of them did quite well. I was watching ITV coverage, and ITV, to be fair to them, gave Burn a lot of credit. Said Burn had a really good game, really steady game. And if you actually look at the stats on the SofaScore, which by magic mark I'll pull up for you now, Dan Burn got 8.2 as a rating. He got a higher rating than Jude Bellingham, than Marcus Rashford, than Declan Rice, than Miles Lewis-Skelly, than Kyle Walker. The only person who got a similar score than Dan Burn was the fucking captain and goal scorer, Harry Kane. And, you know, some of the key stats here for Dan Burn: 7 clearances. You know, he won 2 of his 5 ground duels. He won 4 of his 6 aerial duels. And his passing percentage accuracy was 99%, 135 passes out of 137. It doesn't matter if they were sideways and backwards, simple passes. That's what he did. He kept it simple. He kept it nice and neat. That's what centre-halves do. And he was unlucky not to score with a header at Wembley once again. You know, Dan Burn slipped into that England setup. He didn't look out of place. Doesn't matter if it's Albania or not. It's an international qualifier. You know, he could have been nervous. He could have been shaking. He wasn't. He was steady. He looked like he belonged at international level. You know, he come out and got interviewed afterwards, and he spoke brilliant, as he always does, Dan Burn. And he's such a lovely fella. You know, you'd have to be a real twat to try and attack Dan Burn's character. And these guys are twats. You know, Ian Ladyman, Oliver Holt, they've definitely got an agenda. I used to watch the Sunday Supplement years ago, Oliver Holt in there. I thought he was the most pompous, obnoxious wank stain of a human being that I saw. Even before I could even articulate those words, I just went prick, prick, prick. I didn't have a vocabulary that extended to those insults back then, but I do now. And he's got worse and worse and worse. He's just a fucking knob of a man. He really, really is. And it looks like some of his colleagues in the Daily Mail are exactly the same. It's weird because Craig Hope writes for Daily Mail, and Craig Hope, you know, was writing soliloquies about Dan Burn and waxing lyrically about him. You know, Craig's a nice fellow. I've met him. He's a really nice guy. I like what Craig writes as well. I know sometimes he rattles the cages, but when it comes to Dan Burn and Dan Burn's achievements, he would never underplay that. You know, yes, he's a Newcastle fan, and his pen might have black and white ink in it, you know, but these guys, there's no need for it at all. It's completely fucking classless. And to start talking about the likes of Harry Maguire over Dan Burn just shows this has nothing to do with football whatsoever, because Harry Maguire has been way off form for fucking years now. He shouldn't be anywhere near the England squad. When he was in England squads before, he shouldn't have been anywhere near the England squad. John Stones is an amazing player. You know, I can understand you talking about John Stones, which he does right in the piece, because John Stones is a very, very good centre-half, can play really well in defensive midfield as well, by the way, but not Harry Maguire. You know, if you look at the two, you know, career arcs and the two, you know, careers of those two players in Harry Maguire and Dan Burn over the last 2 or 3 years, Dan Burn by far has had a better career for the last 3 years, and he deserves this England call. There's absolutely no doubt whatsoever. But the only reason that they're attacking the man and they're attacking our football club is because of an agenda and a bias in the mainstream media. Certain Oliver Holt, he doesn't hide it. He's got a geopolitical agenda against our owners. I understand they're not going to win Humanitarians of the Year before anyone jumps in the comments. I get that. But Oliver Holt wouldn't attack Manchester United if they were 80% owned by the PF. I fucking guarantee you that. You know, years ago, and back in 2019, where there was rumours that the PIF were wanting to buy Manchester United, these motherfuckers were writing, you know, rejoicing fucking pieces in the paper. They were so excited about getting Mbappe and Neymar and Messi down at Old Trafford. You know, they were buzzing. As soon as they bought Newcastle, it was, oh, we're horrible guys, these bastards, regime. You know, and that's what they were doing, because this is their agenda. If it's nothing to do with the top 4 or 5 elite clubs in their mind in English football, they don't want nothing to do with it. They hated it when Leicester won the Premier League. I've said that before. They hated it. They had to write pieces about it, but they hated it. They wrote it, and then they cut Leicester's knees off halfway down the page. That's exactly what they're doing here as well. It doesn't matter the fact that Newcastle have now won a competition. We won a cup this season. We could end this season with more trophies than Arsenal, than Manchester United, definitely, than Manchester City, even, than Spurs. We could end this, and Chelsea, we could end this season with more silverware than any of those clubs, and they still refuse to give us any credit whatsoever. But to attack this lad in his moment, 32 years old, playing for England, doing a really good job as well. Those stats back it up. He didn't look out of place at all. I thought he was excellent in the game, nice and steady. To attack him for that just shows you've got an agenda 100%. And I think it's absolutely fucking bogus. It'll be no different for Dan Burn. Sadly, he's probably had hacks like this attack him all of his life, and he's just kept proving them wrong time and time again. But definitely, Ian Ladyman, welcome to the Media Muppets, you absolute ball bag of a human being. That's a dreadful piece of journalism. You should hang your fucking head in shame. And the editor of the Mail should also hang their fucking heads in shame for allowing you to publish such tripe in the back of an England victory, the first England victory for the new manager you've already got the knives out for, and to attack and to attach that to Dan Burn, who did nothing wrong in that game whatsoever. The stats back it up. Just shows you how weak these journalists are and how desperate they are to just try and poke fault at these Newcastle United players. If Sean Longstaff had got an England's call up, they would have done the same thing to him as well, I'm pretty sure, or even Louis Miley, same thing to him as well, because they've just got an agenda. It's absolute bullshit. We see right through it like a fucking pane of glass. But let us know in the comments below what you guys think about that bullshit article. Also, what did you think about Big Dan Burn's debut for England? Were you as proud as all of the Geordies as well? I'm sure Dan Burn's mum and dad were absolutely buzzing and so proud of him. All of his family and friends, all of the teammates in Newcastle United would have been watching that, I'm sure, over in Dubai, the ones on national duty. I think he did an excellent job, and it'll be the first of a few caps, I think, for Dan, because he didn't do anything wrong. And I can see Thomas Tuchel calling him back up in future squads if he keeps playing like he has for Newcastle this season, because he's been excellent for us, and he fully deserved that call up. He didn't deserve the shit that he got from these hacks and so-called journalists in the media. But that's my thoughts on that, guys. Let us know in the comments below what you think. Like and subscribe. Keep it evermore. We'll be back with some more content soon. Have a belter. We'll see you later. Cheers.